Want to edit your photos to make them look 10 times better? Well, keep watching this video. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you how I edit my iPhone photos to make them look 10 times better. So let's get my iPhone 13 mini. That's what I'm going to be using. You can use any iPhone version that you have, and we're just going to be simply in the Photos app. So no third-party app needed. Okay, so you can see that this is the photo we're going to edit. So we're just going to press edit in the top right hand corner. So this is the editing window that you'll see, especially if you're running iOS 15 and you're using one of the newer versions of iPhone. If you're using an older version, it may look a bit different, but it's similar. So you have three options at the bottom. So the first one we're going to stay in for the most part. The second one is filters that Apple gives you that you can use to edit your photos. So you can simply just click the different ones, see if you like any of them, use the dial to increase or decrease the effects it has. I usually don't use these because I like to manually edit my photos, but if you like any of these effects or filters, then by all means go ahead. And then the third option is to crop the image. So you can pick a different kind of shape or ratio of the crop that you want. So square, 9:16, 4:5. And then we're going to go back into the first option. So the first option you'll see is auto enhance. So you can use this if you want to like quickly edit a photo, quickly give it a bit of a difference, but I'm going to keep it off for now. I don't really usually use this because I find I can get better results by manually editing with the other options. So we're just going to skip by this one and go into the first one, which is exposure. So exposure is really helpful if you have an overexposed photo where it's really bright, either outside or inside, and there's too much light coming into the photo. Or you can have the opposite where there's not enough exposure, especially if you have not enough light. So taking photos at night or in dim places. So you can use this kind of effect to improve the look of the photo. So in this photo, the clouds are overexposed, but the rest of the photo is quite dark. So in terms of the photo, I'm going to actually decrease the exposure a bit because I want the clouds to come through. So I'll show you what that kind of looks like when we get into other of the effects. So brilliance is similar to luminosity, so it really affects the light, the brightness of a photo in terms of the light reflecting off of the different objects in the photo. So as you can see, increasing the brilliance, you can see the difference in the clouds now. You can see the photo has brightened up in terms of the color and the light. So we're going to increase it to 100. And I usually always increase the brilliance in like 90% of my photos. Then we'll go on to highlights. So highlights in a photo is kind of light in the photo, so it can sometimes reflect off of like someone's face. So for example, if there were too many highlights, it was really bright outside, the sun was reflecting off my face, like I would look ghost-like because my face would be way too white. So then you can decrease the highlights to give my face a bit more warmth. So in terms of the highlights, I'm actually going to decrease the highlights a bit just to give the clouds less whiteness on them, just so you can see the sky is coming in now with like the blue in the top of the photo, which we couldn't see before. So we're on track to making this photo look even better. So I'm going to leave highlights at maybe -40. And you can always go back if you reach the end of all of the effects or options that you have and you're not quite happy or satisfied with the look, you can go back and review changing some of these options now that you've kind of edited them all. Next, we're going to go to shadows. I usually always kind of increase the shadows a bit just to give the photo more depth. To increase it, it's funny. To increase the shadows, you want to go to the left of the dial, so into the negatives. If you want to get rid of more of the shadows, then you're going to go into the positives. So I'm going to give, Yeah, maybe -15 for shadows. Then contrast, so the difference between light and dark of the photo. So I usually increase the contrast just a bit, so let's go to 10. Then brightness is the overall brightness of the photo. So because the overall photo was a bit dark in terms of where I'm sitting and the lake, I'm going to increase the brightness to 50. Black point increases the darkness in terms of the colors. So I'm going to increase not too much, just about 10, because I did increase the shadows already. I don't want to increase the black point too much because then that will just make the photo and the colors a bit too dark. And especially with contrast, you'll notice if you increase shadows, increase contrast, and then increase black point, sometimes it becomes way too dark in terms of the colors. Then saturation is one I always increase because I want to make my photo pop. Usually the camera doesn't do the colors justice, so I want to enhance those colors. So I'm going to increase saturation to about 50. Now you don't want to have an overly saturated photo because then it just looks way too artificial. But you can also use saturation to have a black and white effect. So if you go all the way to the left-hand side of the dial, so -100, you're going to get a black and white. And you can also adjust it so you can kind of get some colors. It depends on what you're going for in your photo, so that all depends. So I'm just going to leave saturation at 50 because then it brings the blue from the lake. My jacket is popping even more, and you can start to see the colors also in the mountains. Vibrance is different than saturation because it only kind of enhances some colors. So the blues, the greens, those you'll start to see in this photo that start to pop. So I want to increase the vibrance just a bit. So I think I'm going to leave it at 40. And you might be saying like, oh, that kind of looks too blue or too green. But moving on to the next option, which is warmth, you can kind of counterbalance that. So warmth, as the name suggests, will give a bit of warmth to your photo, or if you go to the left-hand side of the dial into the negatives, you'll get a more cooler tint. So again, more blue-green. So I'm just gonna increase the warmth, maybe to, let's go to 15. Just so it's not too blue and green. And then the tint. So the tint can help counterbalance any white balance issues that you're having in a photo. So if you go to the left-hand side again, you will see the greens and the blues are starting to pop even more. And then if you go to the right, then you'll see the purples and the pinks coming through. So I'm going to, again, just because this photo is very based on blue and green, I'm going to increase the tint so some of the purple comes through. You can see some of the purple in the mountains at the very far back of the photo. Sharpness is really making your photo look more sharp in terms of the defined lines and the pixels. If I just zoom into my face and I increase the sharpness, you can start to see that the picture becomes more grainy. The pixels, you can start to pick up the pixels. And for that reason, I'm going to kind of keep the sharpness to a 10. The iPhone does a great job in taking really great quality photos. So sharpness you don't really need, at least in my opinion, but you can play around with it, see what looks best for your photo. Definition is different than sharpness because it affects the colors and the tone and depth of the colors in a photo. For example, let's just increase it so you can see that the colors are more defined, darker in the mountains, especially on the right-hand side of the mountain. So I am going to leave definition at about a 10. And then noise reduction is the second last kind of editing option. Noise reduction is used to combat or counterbalance the fuzziness of a photo. So example, if you were to take a photo at night and there's not a lot of light, you can sometimes see the noise more. So if I zoom in, I don't think you'll be able to see that big of a difference in noise. No. But sometimes if you have a really good photo and you increase the noise all the way to like 100 or even past 50, the photo itself actually becomes blurry because there's not really any noise that can be picked up by this feature. So it's just gonna make the photo look out of focus. It's interesting. So for this photo, I'm just gonna increase it to maybe about 20. And then vignette is the final feature. So vignette can make the corners of a photo dark, or if you go to the opposite side, can give it a halo effect. I don't typically use vignette just because I think the photo can do without most of the time. So for this photo, I'm actually going to leave vignette a bit on the lighter side just because we have the clouds, the white clouds in the sky, just to give it a bit of a boost. So there we have it. We have an edited photo now. And now if you click on the photo, you can see the original and then the edited. So let's do that now. Wow, I'm like shocked. Like the original is so dark, it is overexposed in the sky and in the clouds. There's no color really coming through. It's very gray. There's just not a lot of detail and tone in the colors compared to the edited version where it's brighter. To me, this is 10 times better than the original. Like if I were to post the original photo, people would probably just gloss over it because there's no color. It's dark. But this would get people's attention. What a difference a couple of minutes of manual edits in the Photos app that you already have can make. It's a world of a difference. And if you want to learn about other cool features that the newer iPhones have, like the iPhone 13 mini, you can click my video here. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss out on any of the videos I post.